What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another rendition of Studying Cinema with Cozy. I'm your host, Jamal Hollywood, and today we will be reviewing one of Ashton Kutcher's more popular movies from the early 2000s, and that movie is The Butterfly Effect. So to start off, The Butterfly Effect is about a boy named Evan who suffers from severe memory loss and blackouts. In his early childhood, you could see the gradual progression of these blackouts and how significant of an impact they have on his life. The ripple effect that these blackouts have in his life causes him to question himself, his past, and even his present. Not knowing what truly has happened in his past causes him to question who he is as a person in the present, and it causes him to, further dig into this phenomenon. In the beginning of this film, you can see Evan doing things as a child that are deemed questionable, and these questionable acts are due to the fact that he's having blackouts and having no recollection or no full understanding of why he's doing the things that he's doing. There are moments where he's waking up from these blackouts and asking his mother, like, what happened, why am I doing this? And there's no answer for it. The only thing that can be close of an answer for him and his mother is the fact that his father suffered from a similar illness, suffer from memory loss and blackouts and things of that nature. It's revealed that, his father was taken to a mental asylum because of this, and his mother doesn't want the same path for her son, Evan. And throughout the film, you can see her concern for that outcome as his blackouts get worse and as his obsession with these blackouts get worse as well. From a child to an early teen, you can see how there are key events in his life where Evan has had blackouts. One of these key events happened when him and his friends were 7 years old, and his friend's father wanted Evan and his daughter to participate in a film where, Evan had a blackout. Obviously, something traumatic happened during this time, and Evan knows it, even though he's not fully aware of what happened exactly. He grows up knowing that something bad happened that day, and that day changed the course of history forever, and you see it throughout the rest of the film. That day, along with the day that, one of his friends, or who he thought was his friend, Tommy, killing his dog, along with the day where him, Tommy, Katie, and their other friend Lenny play a prank on another neighbor where they stick a piece of dynamite in their mailbox. Evan has blackouts during all of these moments, and he has no recollection of what happened and what led to the result that he is able to witness. One of these events obviously leads to his dog dying, and another event, which is the prank that they play on the neighbor, leads to Lenny having a moment where he freezes up and has to be taken to the hospital. All of these moments, along with the traumatic moment that happened when he was a child, lead up to him questioning himself as an adult and wanting to know the answers to everything as an adult. Before he's able to, fully grow into an adult, him and his mother move out of town to where, he could get a better state of mind, and so that his mother doesn't have to constantly worry about his whereabouts and the worst possible scenario for him, being that he's experiencing blackouts so often. The movie cuts 7 years ahead to him being in college, where he hasn't had a blackout in 7 years, and he's living a lot more comfortably within himself, a lot more joyful. He's making genuine friends at college where he's able to go out and enjoy his time with. And throughout all of this, there's still a lingering thought in his head as to what exactly happened during these blackouts, even though it's not a present issue for him at the moment, being that he's content with everything that's going on in his life. These memories that have been stored in the back of his mind and stored in his journal that his mother gave to him when he was a child come back to life after a night out with one of his friends. A girl that he goes out with persuades him to read a couple of the journal entries that he wrote down as a child to her, so that she could gain a better understanding as to what he was writing down and why he was writing it down. As he's reading one of these journal entries, he has a flashback to the exact moment that he's recalling in this journal entry. And going back to that exact moment, he feels that he's within that moment in time again. And he wakes up to a slight seizure along with a nosebleed And upon doing this act again, he goes back in time and he manipulates something back in time to where, he causes a mark on his skin, and he wakes up and it's on his skin in the present day. That's when he realizes that he could actually manipulate time if he reads his journal entries and ultimately change his present by altering his past. There are different characters that have been affected by, the butterfly effect of these different events that happened when they were children. Lenny being one of them. Now that he has experienced the traumatic events of the prank that they played as children, he's silent in present day. Katie works at a diner that, she's unhappy with because of the ripple effect of the trauma and the abuse that she experienced from her father. And Tommy, he is in prison behind all of the acts that he has done as an adolescent and as an adult. Excuse me, Tommy is not in jail. Tommy is working at a mechanic shop, due to his ripple effect that he has experienced in life. Ashton Kutcher's character Evan wants to, seek answers from these people to see if the memories that he's reliving by reading these journal entries are exact and are on point with what actually happened. He goes to meet up with Lenny, and it doesn't necessarily go his way, but he does find out that the memories that he was recalling while reading these journal entries are suffice. Along with going to meet up with Katie to try to get the same type of information, that doesn't turn out so well, with Katie being reminded about the traumatic events and the abuse that her father put her through. She goes on to, unalive herself in the next scene. This causes Ashton Kutcher's character to go back in time and, change the events of that one traumatic event when they were 7 years old. Changing that event led to him and Katie being in college together in the present day, and him not knowing, exactly how it happened or how he got there. He's just experiencing day by day his new life, This also leads to him having to confront his demons and Tommy, as Tommy comes back around and tries to get his revenge on Evan for, basically living a life that Tommy wanted to live. With Evan going back in time and, changing the past, all the abuse that happened to Katie in her past transitioned to Tommy, and all of the anger that's built up in Tommy is being unleashed out onto Evan. They have a confrontation where Evan ends up killing Tommy, and, Evan has to go to jail behind it. He has to try to access his journal entries to even try to get out of this situation, and, him maneuvering through that is a tall task within itself. After he's able to do that, he goes back in time and manipulates time again. And, this happens throughout the film until he tries to get that perfect ending, which is unachievable. He almost reaches the path where he's in a mental asylum for life, just like his father, with people not believing him about his ability to travel back in time through reading these journal entries or even having access to these memories where he had experienced blackouts. The movie is a big testament to how we hold on to memories and trauma and how we cope with them. And I feel like there are many lessons to be learned in this movie, especially when it comes to us being content with our present and, doing whatever we can to have the best future rather than dwelling on the past. Evan's obsession with dwelling on the past and wanting to change the past to the point where everyone can have a perfect life caused him to lose his grip on reality and caused him to go down a slippery slope to where, he's kind of losing himself along with losing his full grasp of reality as well. With all of the timelines that he jumps through, he's having a hard time settling on what is the timeline that, is suffice. There's timelines where Katie is happy, unhappy. There's timelines where Tommy is living righteous or living evil. And there's timelines where Lenny is, in a mental hospital in Evan's place versus living the life that he's supposed to live in fulfillment. And Evan being the catalyst to all of these change in events and these butterfly effects that's going on in his life, he feels like he has the responsibility to, try to make everything perfect. And that obsession with trying to make everything perfect causes him to, go through some traumatic events within the changes that he's causing in life. One of the scenes that is conveyed in this movie shows him, losing his limbs, his arms, behind trying to alter the events of the prank that they played. It's different events like that that are showed in the film show him that he can't change the past to have a perfect future and present. There has to be some sort of loss or some sort of tragedy that happens in his life that causes him to live a life of, contentment, despite all of the blackouts that he has experienced in life, And it's Evan's need to wanting to know himself more as an individual that causes him to keep on going through this cycle, whether it causes a good turnout for him and bad for others, or a bad turnout for him and good for others. He's obsessed with trying to get questions answered about his childhood, along with creating the perfect reality for himself and everybody around him. And we as people, a lot of us would probably go back in time to change some events that happened in the past to kind of manipulate how our mind works today and where we are today. But little do we know that everything that happened in the past happened for a reason, to contribute to us being the people that we are today. That was a hard pill for Evan to swallow in the film, being that he experienced so many blackouts during these moments and didn't have any recollection or knowledge as to what really happened. And these blank spaces in his mind caused him to question himself as an adult. And that right there is something that me personally, don't experience as far as blackouts and not remembering things. But there are people out there that don't, have memories revolving around certain traumatic events. And I think that this is what this movie is being a testament to. A lot of people, to kind of, forget about these events that happen that really traumatize them, they just push them to the back of their mind and don't really recollect on them. And as they get older, they lose memories revolving around that age or time frame that traumatic event took place. And that is basically what happens to Evan, except that, the movie showcases it as him just straight up blacking out and not having any memory whatsoever from that moment in time. Coping with this type of traumatic ripple effect in life is hard to deal with. And you see Evan, the main character, go back and forth with himself, his family, his friends on wanting to get to a place of comfort and wanting to finally have peace within his life. But the peace that he's looking for is not necessarily the peace that he is needing in his life. And that's something that he has to understand as well. Him not knowing his father due to the same illness that he's experiencing, along with not knowing himself as well as he may want to. It's a lot for him to take in as a person and as an individual, along with all of the other relationships that he's trying to compromise and balance out in the movie. And I feel like as people in today's age, with everything that's revolving around mental health, this is a movie that can speak out to people that are suffering from, having to cope with certain events that they have been traumatized with as a child or even as a young adult, and how to necessarily move on from these events. At the end of the film, you see Evan burn all of his journals and just, stay content with what is and what isn't. There are people that are meant to be in his life and there are people that aren't meant to be in his life. And once he comes to that understanding, he realizes that, there's nothing better than to just be at peace within himself in the present and to take advantage of every moment that is presented to him to the fullest ability, rather than dwelling on the past. And you see him become a successful man in the end, but that man wouldn't be successful if he didn't have to face his fear about, what happened in the past. And facing his fear about what happened in the past and channeling in on those memories and really focusing in on trying to change those memories. Yes, they did cause a bad ripple effect, changing some memories, but he was still able to go back in time and face his fear of not knowing. And not knowing himself was the one thing that he wanted to rectify, And he did that throughout the film, even though the film's pacing shows it as if, he's just going through these events at the spur of the moment, you know, at a whim's moment. In real life, you could imagine how much of a toll it would take on your mind to, you know, experience these things, to experience these events over and over again and not know, or to experience these events in different fashion and have your present play out in a different way. And him having to balance all of these mental aspects in one causes him to just, you know, be still in the very end. And by still, I mean mentally still and, you know, spiritually still. And he gets to a point where he just, you know, is done, and he just wants to find peace within himself by moving forward and not being stuck in the past. And that's the biggest lesson in this film right here, is to move forward in the most positive way possible, to not be stuck in the past, along with facing fears from your past to grow into a better person. And that is ultimately what I got from this film. And I hope that, you know, other viewers that are suffering from mental illness or any form of, you know, mental hardship can see that within this film and learn something from it. I feel like it's one of, like I said, Ashton Kutcher's better films from this era. And it's one of the better films that I've seen in the past couple of days that I've been able to learn from. And I honestly hope that you all take the time to watch this film and to learn something from it as well. It's a timeless movie in my eyes, and I feel like, you know, the more we talk about mental health, the more we could learn from films like these to kind of gain a better understanding on what people really go through when they suffer from traumatic events. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in on this episode of Studying Cinema with Cozy. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You know, tune in for weekly videos revolving movies, film, and other forms of art. I'm going to be trying to get these out to you as consistently as possible. The next one we have coming up is 7 pounds. So be on the lookout for that. So, like I said, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Cozy Candids, and follow me at Jamal Hollywood. And I will be tuning in with you guys very soon. Thank you.